Good afternoon, everyone. I figured I'd, explain some of my hobby. Of course, the dogs are going to start barking as soon as I start talking. And so this here is one of my bonsai trees that I have come to rescue. It's still got a lot of training to do. We're just starting out, as you can tell. We're still shaping it out a little bit. I think somebody had some plans for this that wasn't working out for them. And so I said that, I could probably help. I could probably help get it back together. And so I've been working on it for, probably a month or so. And, in the meantime, I got, a little bonsai kit so that I could actually get back into the hobby. It's an amazing little hobby when you can take what would normally be a ginormous tree and shrink it down into, a living sculpture, which I think is absolutely fascinating. And, my brother and I have been into bonsais since, we were kids. And I remember my brother's dad worked at a place called Imbo Bonsai at Sonnenberg Gardens in Canandaigua, New York. It's actually a pretty amazing place. So, I just figured I would kind of talk you guys through what, bonsais are and living art. And, if it looks like I'm, see if I can keep that up there from moving on me. Sorry, guys. If it looks like I'm kind of ripping the tree apart, that's nature. Nature really can beat up trees. And that is kind of the idea, is that, you're mimicking nature in an artistic way when you're taking these, these trees and not allowing them to get larger than, let's say, 3.5 feet, or less. So the idea, like when you can see that it's got a pretty solid base, so it's been in a pot for a long time. This was obviously a stock tree, probably Lowe's or Home Depot or something, So, today what I'm kind of doing is just coming through here and I'm pulling all the dead growth off, because I came through here a little while ago and just kind of gave it a haircut. And so, what I want to do is just pull out all the dead from inside. See all that coming out from inside? What I want to do is give the tree room to grow. And so that was part of the problem with, these two. And I can show you, like, for instance, that one right there on there. And excuse the mess, we're moving stuff around. But I was just, this is a passion of mine. I just wanted to share it with you guys while I was working on it. And a beautiful, beautiful Saturday here in Texas. And you can still see this one still has it. And I think it just kind of, it wasn't something that they wanted to continue to work on, and it was already overgrowing. And I came in and started cutting it down a little bit, and you can see, some of the cuts. So, what we're going to do actually with this is each one of these is going to kind of go out into a layer. So, as you step back from it, you can start to see how this will shelf out, and then that'll shelf out. And then, so obviously a lot of work has already been done to this tree for me, because look at the base. Look how thick that base is right there, And so, you can tell that it's been in this pot probably 5 or 6 years at this point, just with the size of it. If I step back, you can kind of see. And, so that's, what'll happen is this up here, this crown, we'll make it a crown, and it'll swoop down, probably over this a little bit more, and it'll crown up. And what you have to decide when you're looking at these trees is, which way is north? So when you step back and you look at the tree, and you're like, okay, so when I get ready to put this in a pot, because this is going to go into a pot, that might be probably that tall, but wide. I'm going to make a cement pot for it. Maybe I'll do a video on that too. But you can see how, like, just coming in here like I was doing before, and I'll just grab this, and all I'm trying to do is just pull the dead growth out and the underbrush. And so what that does is, one, in a lot of ways it can mimic nature and how nature is going to beat up these these trees. And if you've ever watched like Karate Kid, then that was the first introduction for a lot of people when it came to like bonsais in general. And so I wanted to kind of maybe correct also a little bit, or dispel, you know, some myth about how you actually say bonsai. Okay, so for instance, you wouldn't bonsai is the Japanese war cry before they, you know, crash the plane into your ship. So bonsai is a different word than bone. So like bone and then sai, like bonsai. And so, you know, that is the two different words, and one obviously means, you know, living art. Like these trees are living art. So, you know, for those of you who like trees free, $1 for, you know, some snips. Got what was this, 25? I think it was like $25 from Amazon. And you've got an entire hobby where, you know, maybe I'll take you guys for a walk. Let me know in the comments if you want to go wild collecting with me, because we can go to some very harsh environments. So, you know, let's say for instance, I go on a hike and we look for steep river embankments, and then we're going to start crawling up on them, and we'll look for trees that have been there like this for a while. And you yank the tree out, slap it in a bag with some basic dirt, get it wet, get it home, get it into some sandy loam soil, some loose soil with a little bit of root hormone. And you know, realistically, you could have a tree that's been sitting in nature already for 25 or 30 years. And you just bring it home and put it into a pot and start training it as a living sculpture of art. And that's what I really like about these guys, you know, is that you really can have a tree that will last maybe your lifetime, maybe into your kids' lifetime. Some of these trees from like the royal gardens in Japan and China, you know, some of them they have hundreds of years old trees. Like I remember in Sonnenberg Gardens at Imbo Bonsai, like, which would be interesting. I wonder if it's still there. I think they talked about like a 540-year-old willow tree. And it had, can't show it really now, but it had like a trunk like my calf. It was huge. And it stood about this tall, you know, actually probably including the pot, you know. And so, you know, that was pretty wild that they would go on tour with these trees, these living art, this something that you can pass down to your children, that you went and wild collected. It was already, let's say, 25 or 30 years old, getting its absolute ass handed to it on the side of a cliff. And the best thing that happened to it in its entire freaking life is that you came and put it into a pot where at least it gets some nutrition, you know, because probably hardly anything on the side of, you know, on the side of the mountain. So, you know, I just kind of wanted, as I was again just trying to pull out some of the undergrowth, which I think was part of the problem again, you know, with this. And you pull it out, and what we're trying to do is just make sure that you see you have the ledge that's going to come up, okay? And then it'll crown, at some point, it'll crown like right here, and I'll have the ledge come out. And so, you know, this one for the most part is, you know, I can see through it now. All of that underbrush is gone. And, you know, on beautiful days like today, okay, so yeah, you can see right here, just coming up. See, these are really nice, and I've had these before when we were working on bonsais with my brother Dan, and they were used, you know, to do the same thing. Like we just kind of went in under the underbrush. I don't want to do too much damage to the bark and to, you know, the foliage, because I am trying to train it. Somebody else trained this tree, so I'm not doing that right now. But what I may do is go down to Walmart here, and they've got some evergreens down there that are, I don't know, like $35 or something, and maybe I'll grab that in one of these, quick episodes, and we'll cut it all down and I'll shape it in front of you so that you can see it. How just taking a $35 tree from Walmart and getting the right type of wire that's not going to hurt the bark, and then take something that looks like an absolute mess and shape it into something that once the foliage forms out and it kind of comes out, like, I don't know if you can see that, like you want it to come out and up and then it'll come out. Now see, when I was saying earlier about picking north, like you have to face your plant and you have to decide which is north. So knowing where east and west is in your nursery or where you're keeping your bonsai is really important. So for instance, this is north. So this is all dead wood right here. So there's nothing, this is all dead space. We call it dead space. So what I may actually do in the future, and of course I'll include you guys in that, little hobby expedition, but I may come through and deadwood this. And what I mean by deadwood is I'm going to grab like a like an X-Acto knife, or or a razor blade knife. It really can just be a razor blade knife, and I'll peel all of this bark off, and then I'll have like a hot plate with some wax, and when I peel the bark off, so all of this will be white. All right, so we want a little bit of contrast between the bark color and the foliage color and the entire thing as it goes together. So you have a white bark, which will get bleached by the sun. It'll bleach white. And so what I do is I paint that open sore essentially on this plant. I paint that with wax, and that'll protect that now open sore so that it can heal over. And so what I'll do when I do it is I'll take like little slits, and I'll make little slits, and obviously I'll peel all this out, but I'll take the bark, and you take the bark and you flip it inside out, and then I'll wrap the tree once I paint everything with wax to kind of protect everything, and then I wrap it. And so when you take that bark and you fold it in on itself, and then it heals, it makes the wound, which will probably come all the way up to here, and then maybe even up to here, and I'll spin it around like this. Okay, so when you fold that bark in underneath itself and it does this, it makes the tree look 10 or 15 or maybe even 20 years older just by doing that deadwood and folding the bark in. Okay, and it'll take about a year for it to fully heal over from that kind of wound. But at that point, like, again, all of the foliage is starting to fill out. So you have good foliage. It's not dense, and so I think they're just letting it get too dry, and so you have a lot of dry, dense foliage, and they knew that it wasn't going to be long before they were going to lose these. And so it was one of those things where it was a good start for a hobby, and so we can do some wild collecting. If if you're in the Rockdale area and you have some old hedges that you might want to get rid of, hit me up in the DMs, because some of those hedges will make spectacular bonsais, and maybe I can do an episode of coming over and pulling up some of those old hedges that just look, for a lot of people they look like trash, but for me that's a work in art. That's been beat up by nature, so that is already stood the test of time as far as like what's gonna make a good tree for a long-term bonsai project, right? So again, I want to hand this off as an heirloom. Doesn't want to come out as an heirloom to somebody in my family, right? And you can do the same. And if every one of them has their own stories now, and as a living art, you can see, I'm gonna get in there and just tear it out. And what's nice about bonsai is like Bob Ross would say, like, there's no mistakes, there's only happy mistakes. There's no wrong mistakes. So when I go in there and I tear it up and I'm like, okay, and now I can go in and I can clip specific ones that I know are going to crown or they're going to take off. And see how I'm cutting it is I want it to like, see how that comes down, and then, so that doesn't work for me. So I want to, you know, and see how this one, you guys probably can't see it, but so like that's gonna come out like this, and I'm okay with that. I want it to come out and up, so this all crowns off. And see how I will crown it now, and see, okay, so the next time that I trim this will probably be maybe going into winter a little bit, to kind of do a fall trim. And especially for these guys, I prefer to repot them in the wintertime. I prefer to repot most things in the wintertime. Primarily, the colder it is, the better, because you know, the tree itself has actually kind of gone into a dormant state. And so, you know, again, you make one of those happy mistakes where you take more roots than you should. And you think, oh, I just kind of devastated this tree, and I don't think it's going to do okay. And you know, as long as it's cold enough when you do that and the roots wake up, as far as they're concerned, I think visually, like let's just play a visual game with it. I think that, you know, it just wakes up and thinks that it just got ripped up around the ground, and now it's just going to throw a bunch of new growth in order to overcome, you know, what just happened. So, you know, this is one of those hobbies where you can literally go to Walmart and start with some of their boxwoods there, and you know, as long as it's got a good stem, you're looking for a good stem, or it depends on what kind of style you're going for, because like there's I don't know, like you know, a half a freaking million styles of art, you know. And so, you know, I would have to say that there's probably the same as far as, you know, we'll do some cascading where it'll start right here and then it will cascade down off. And I want to encourage people to really get into this, because it's nice to get into, and I think that part's kind of done. I'm just going to keep kind of, as we're talking, this is a big one, which I kind of worked on before, so we're going to get some of that remainder out. But you see how I kind of pull it down and pull it apart, and I'm just doing it with tweezers. You know, let me just double check to make sure that we're still looking. Oh shit, oh man, okay. All right, well, yeah, this is the first episode, they always suck. Yeah, so, you know, but you can come in here and you clean out all the undergrowth. So on a beautiful day like today, it's really very meditative. I can see why it's a phenomenon around the world to do bonsais. It's not just popular in Asia anymore. It's literally popular everywhere. They have bonsai gardens in Australia, and I think they have it in Brazil too, I heard. So, you know, what I'm also trying to do with the tweezers is very lightly pull everything apart, and if I don't like something, like, I can look at it, I can step back. Again, I'm going to check. This thing keeps moving on me, and I want to... All right, are we still? I don't know. We are still live. Okay, so again, I'm gonna have to get a better setup. Try to keep the phone from moving around. I think it's really just the wind. So I'll keep an eye on it. You know, mark it. But you see how I can pull this down, and I can see how this is gonna come out. So I may leave that, but I'm just gonna come in. And I'm already shaping it. And again, for the rest of the summer, probably not going to touch this. And I'm just going to let them kind of fill back out after, you know, this has kind of been a rough ordeal with, you know, the way that they were taken care of before I got them, and how they're, you know, me kind of tearing them apart to get all that growth out from in here. And the reason that's important is it gives the room for new growth and new density to come in. So you can see how this one's got a lot of it. And if you wonder, like, particularly with evergreens, when you do this kind of trimming, you want to make sure you get some of this stuff into the pot. You want to act as a shade for the pot, for the base of the pot. But evergreens like this in particular, they like to, the reason that they have the system that they have is all of this stuff that's coming out right now That's meant to make sure that nothing else grows in the area that this particular evergreen is growing in. So it's a competent defense mechanism, actually, because not a lot of shit grows around it when it gets established. So, you know, I can always pull out different style tweezers. Like, it even gets down into, you know, you go to the straight tweezers because I'm not getting enough, and I see how I'm just in there pulling out the underbrush. I would normally do this with, I could do this with chopsticks too. I would recommend getting metal ones if you use chopsticks, because it's nice when you can just kind of poke in there and just push stuff out, and you can use it on the roots too. So, you know, different tools for different things. And then I do want to do an episode on how to make your own cement pots. I think that, you know, there's a good amount of them out there. But like, I was in Dollar Tree today, and there's a ton of like different types of bowls, shapes and sizes. They're like $1.25 to $5, and you know, I think the cloth cement bowl, from what I can tell on you know, watching YouTube videos, that's going to be the most you know, the most economical, because I can buy a towel from the Dollar Tree for like, I don't know, I think it was $1. It's not a Dollar Tree anymore. It's $1.25 tree, actually. But I think it was $1.25 for this hand towel, which will probably make the cement pot big enough that I need for this particular tree. And so, you know, that'll be good if you get into this hobby and you're broke like me, because, you know, I'm kind of getting back into the hobby because I am, you know, broke. And that's why I'm saying, like, if you're in Rockdale and you go, well, I've got some hedges that look like absolute trash, you know, I wonder if the Rockdale Bonsai guy, that's my nickname during this, we'll go with that, because I know what some of y'all out there would give me nicknames. But yeah, like, if you have some hedgerows that look like absolute trash, and you know, they're hardwood, or they're deciduous and juniper trees like this, like, you know, hit me up in the DM, because I wouldn't mind doing a couple of shows where you know, you can see, I'll show you, like, you can see how that is too much. Like, out here, I don't know if you can see it, like, that's too much. So we have to go through here, and there's going to be a lot of shoots coming out, and I'd rather cut back early now instead of having to come back in the summertime and go, holy you know, shit, there's too much growth. And then that too much growth has an effect when you do your winter prep. You know, now the one thing about Texas is these particular trees, you know, they can take a winter in a pot. So, you know, that's particularly nice. But, you know, you can see where you're going to want to start to shape the bell, or the bowl, so to speak, of this particular tree. And so, you know, when I'm cleaning them up, I realize that a lot of them will have to be, you know, just trimmed down, and you know, to honor Bob Ross, I'm going to say, with most bonsais, you really, you know, unless you work pretty hard at it, as long as you can keep a tree alive in your yard, you can keep them alive in the pots. It's just a different science on how you know, layer your pots. So the bottom of the pot is almost always going to be just simple gravel, primarily for drainage. The last thing you want is root rot for, you know, a tree that, you know, this could win a few competitions, local competitions. I don't know if it would win like national or international competitions, but you know, you can do it for a hobby, or you can get into actually doing competitions. Those are pretty cool. Like, if you have some time, look them up. They're pretty wild. And so, you know, you're looking at some trees that will get imported from, you know, the Japanese imperial garden, or the Chinese imperial garden that's 840 years old, and they know it's 840 years old because they've got drawings of it when it first came into the garden. So, you know, this is a long and tradition of creating art with the environment around you, and then having the ability to say that this tree might live to be a couple hundred years old. So, how many generations of people are in that process would own this tree that we now have video of me trimming up for the spring. And see, you see how this bowl, like I really like how this is already forming up and it's kind of nice. And I'll let it kind of come in a little bit and fill this in, and we're going to fill in the spots a little bit. But this will be kind of a very standard, traditional, evergreen bonsai. So, we're just going to kind of, keep talking about the tradition and the history of it as I keep working on this. And again, I would encourage any of you, if there's actually a bunch of people in town who are interested in that, like we can get together, and I'm happy. I don't know, I just keep looking at this and it just bothers me. It just, I keep wanting to pull it down, but I just, no, I'm just going to have to give them some time to fill in. I'm just going to have to do that, So, even if I cut back too much, that's what I'm saying, like, in Bob Ross style, in honor of Bob Ross, like, even if you cut back too much and you're like, damn it, you step back and you look at it and you're like, I fucked up, because I've done that a few times, trust me. And, by next spring, there's going to be a lot of growth on this. It's going to take off on you. If you left this in the pot and walked away from it for a couple of years, like, this thing will be out of control. It'll be out of control in a couple of years. So, we can take these and enjoy them year round. Like, come out every day or come out every couple of days with your cup of coffee. Or even it's just a weekend thing, like make sure you water your plants during the week. Like, they're going to need a little extra watering because of the nature of them being, in the pot. But, so what I may do is actually, I probably can get some steel. I'll probably get some steel chopsticks, and that'll be a little bit easier to get in here. Just kind of flush out the dead shit. You see all that dead shit falling out? This is a work of art, so it requires attention. It requires of me to take all of that dead stuff out so that the tree is healthy, and I don't know if you guys can see that, but like, okay, I don't know if we can. We want good, clean undergrowth. See all that? That's bad. Okay, I don't know if you can see it in the sun. I'll do better next time, guys. I don't like putting them on their sides, but for now, like, you can tell. Okay, so like right here, you can see all that undergrowth. That, as an artist, I don't want that there. I want this tree as beautiful and healthy as possible. And, again, we can look at this one as an example. Like, it's messed up, man. It's got a deep divot right here. But, by this time next year, this is going to be, it'll be full. And I'll, obviously I'll keep the layout of it because I like the way that, I like the natural layout of this tree. It's really, it's already a beautiful work of art. I don't have to do much to it except for just, finalize it for nature, and just develop a relationship. Like, a lot of these plants, you'll find out, they have personalities. It's weird. All right, we're getting weird. All right. So I happen to like cactus. Many of you know that. I have a couple of cool cactus breeds, primarily because of just honoring that species of plants. So, but there's times where I have to replant these damn things, and I always talk to them, and I'm like, hey man, I'm trying to replant you, or I tell them what I'm doing. I'm like, don't freaking bite me, don't bite me. And there has to be times where I have felt, and what I'm gonna try to do if I keep doing this is get the rotator plate so that I'm not having to do that. But anyway, back to the cactus. I've said don't bite me, I'm doing something, and so it almost felt, which is kind of weird, but it almost felt like the spikes the little bastard prickers on these things, for lack of a better term. You know, they I almost felt like they almost recoiled, like they stopped stinging me as bad, and maybe that's just psychological, but you know, I think that you can, you know, these guys have personalities, and you know, you mess up and you do something wrong, and they're gonna, trust me, from somebody who's been working for or with bonsais since I was a young kid, and you know, again, I've got to thank my brother's dad for that opportunity at Imbo Bonsai and Sonnenberg Gardens, you know, Canandaigua, New York. I'm gonna have to check and see if that's open, man. But maybe my brother can go and do a run and, you know, post me in that if you guys want to see this place. It was absolutely beautiful at one time, you know. So, all right, so this one I kind of came into. So, you know, you can see the shelf look, but it's a little scraggly, and I don't want to encourage that. So I'm going to come in here, and just like a haircut, I want to shape these. And what I don't want to do is, you know, so there we go. Okay. And those are the neighborhood dogs, letting everybody know they're still there. Okay, so again, I may not trim as much up here as I am down here, because I would rather the tree be trained. Like, I could almost stick my hand up underneath these and not hurt, where if I stuck my hand right here, you know, with these evergreens, they're little prickly bastards sometimes. You could almost, you know, grab it. Like this one, see, I can reach under here and feel that, and when it pokes the shit out of me, I know it needs to be trimmed, you know. And so you just come in here and you're like, okay, that goes, then you go, oh, we're back to here again, you know. All right, that's gotta go. We're doing it. Don't start crying now. All right. We gotta keep going. Toss that. Forget about it. See how that opened up that huge gap right there? So what we found out when we did that is, look at how much stuff I pulled out of there. So you can still see it. Hopeful. And so sometimes you just got to be like, well, all right, you know, you're just gonna have to get it out. But we're still working on this plant. Like in a couple of years, this will look like it came from the Japanese or Chinese royal garden, you know. But you can see already how there's a lot of light in here now, and in here. See, we're gonna open it up, and we want to open it up because we want growth in the plant. And you know, nature is really rough in general with trees. So, you know, what we want to do is kind of mimic it, so it stimulates the tree. You know, this is an animal coming up and, you know, chomping on it or ripping it apart, and it requires the tree to react, you know. And I'll have to get like all of this undergrowth out. And so I would encourage all of you guys who are watching this or watch it in the future, you know, that there is a real opportunity to set yourself up with a hobby that lasts literally your entire life. Now I'm going to keep working on both these trees and shaping them. And you know what I'll do is I'm going to set this aside here. We'll pull this tree up here, and you can tell, like, these guys were in trouble. They needed some help. So you kind of step back and you look at it, and you can see how, like, again, we gotta come through here and you know, clean her up. And right now we're in the shaping phase. So you know, you see how this got a random branch just sticking out right here, and I feel like that is eventually coming off, to be honest with you. And so because I need my north, and so I don't want both trees to look alike. But you see how we've got this line right here, and it goes shoop all the way up from, like, right here all the way up, and there's just no, you can clearly tell that they've taken other branches off. So surprised that that one made it. And who knows, maybe I'll cut that back. And again, like, you know, like you look at these guys and they've got like really good bases on them, and you look at them and you start tearing it away and you go, that's a really good base. And this is a Lowe's. This was a Lowe's tree, you know. I think it was originally, all right, so for basically $114, you can start your bonsai collection with a tree. It's roughly, I would say, 5 years old, maybe older. And, you know, at that point, it's just find the shape of the tree and make it work, you know. So, you know, maybe I need this to counterbalance it a little bit, and I'm gonna let the tree fill out, you know, because you make big cuts like that, and you may go back sometime and be like, well, that wasn't a good cut, like. So sometimes it's good to, and so you can see the difference between the trees. Like, you start seeing the difference between how clean each section is on each tree. And so again, like, this will get shaped, it'll probably peak like right up about here, and it'll come down into like a cone shape, like an offset pyramid cone shape. And it'll do the same over there too as well. You know, and so, you know, once they're started, they don't really require a lot of extra work. You know, it's just maintenance at that point. Like these guys for me right now are just going to be maintenance, maintenance and shaping. So, you know, but if you have, like I said, I would love to work with people. If we make a deal, like, I may pull 4 out and I'll make one for you. So, you know, there's always that opportunity where we can do a show together. Like, if I like the, you know, if I like the shape of the bush, or there's potential in the, like, for instance, you have boxwood bushes that are all tore up, and they're, you know, you might want to replace them. I'll take them. Let me know and I'll come get them, or we can take them out together, or when you have your guys take them out to go put new shrub line bushes in or whatnot, have me come take a look at them and see which ones I want. And, you know, I'm more than happy to you know, make a cement bonsai pot to put it in once it's, you know, it's probably going to sit in this for a year or so. So depends on how bad the root gets, you know, destroyed and ripping it out of the ground. But I mean, I've seen trees that I thought were dead, and they dipped it in some in some root hormone solution, stuck it in a bag with some sand and some topsoil, and 2 years later it was back into a pot, and it looked absolutely spectacular. The whole base had swollen up because it had, you know, suffered a severe shock. And so, you know, the response was massive growth while being trimmed back. The only thing, so you keep trimming this back, right? And you keep trimming the roots back. What else does the tree have to do except for get fat? Right? Because, like, you know, it's only going to grow, it'll grow enough for you to trim it, okay? And that's why these trees are already super fat. It's because they've been trimmed, you know, probably for the last 5 to 7 years. These could be 10-year-old trees just sitting out in some California valley, you know, until they hit lows last year or something, you know. But you know, we'll keep doing this, guys, and I would love to do some wild collection stuff with people and really promote the hobby here in Rockdale, Texas, or anywhere around. If you have some land that has some great ravines, or if I can get some access to some old, you know, some of the best places are the old quarries that, you know, haven't been touched in, you know, 20 years, and all of the trees have started growing back, and you get up onto the sides up there safely, of course, but and you start collecting trees out there that are the size of your forearms, and no bigger than these guys, because there's just not enough nutrition. And so I'll leave this with you guys, because I'm gonna jump in this and just, you know, do it myself, kind of in a meditative state, listening to the birds chirp as the sun goes down. The science behind the bonsai is that we restrict its growth. We restrict the growth in 2 ways. Obviously trimming and we restrict it with the roots, okay? But we also restrict it in nutrition. So the nutrition that we give the tree, you know, will give it enough to survive, but that's it. So the only thing it's going to do is inflate with water, because that's actually how most of your plants, like you look out here, you look at all these plants, like they don't suck up the dirt, guys. They suck up the nutrients out of the dirt. So, you know, if I was to weigh the dirt that I put into this pot, let this plant grow into it, which I did, won a science fair experiment in the 1800s. It's really just the water that goes into the pot that allows it to suck up nutrients. So if we restrict that along with, you know, decent trimming and root growth, well, we pull them out. And when I get ready to put these into a pot, I'll definitely get you guys up on here, and you're gonna watch, man. Like I don't know if I want to do it right now. If we get, okay, so here's the deal. If we get another cold snap, where, and I don't want to say this out loud, so don't punch me in the face if you see me for saying this, but man, I just want to cut this. And so if we get another cold snap and the pots are ready, I'll probably do a live broadcast, and you know, when it's cold as shit out here, you know, we'll be tearing the root ball apart and putting this into a new pot. So until next time, guys, I'm gonna sign off. If I can see anything, because it's bright as shit out here, but here, I'll do some final kind of looking at the trees, you know, and all right, well, until next time, peace.